Hello people, what do we have here today? Okay, I had a lunch break today and I was standing under an oak tree and I said, hey, this acorn. And took one of them and when I got home I wanted to cast something, so I decided I'm gonna use the acorn to make a mold and try and cast an acorn. Acorn being a kind of round shaped, actually oval shaped object. I need to cut it in half to make a proper mold, and as you can see me having the special gloves that are cut resistant as I shown you. I know these gloves are cut resistant, otherwise I wouldn't do the cutting gesture which I did. Okay, here I already split the acorn. This is the finger section of the shell. Actually, the part of the acorn that sorry, is attached to the branch. And then yeah, here is the split acorn, as you can see. I apologize, there are a few moments that I were out of the frame and I didn't realize it. Here I'm using some press stick again. Actually, I hate this stuff because all it seems to actually stick is posters, and yeah, children art against a fridge or against the notice board, maybe against the wall, and it doesn't even stick long. So this stuff is kinda useless for me. For my projects it's actually useless. So I'm already seeing it's not gonna work. This part of the shell I'm trying to put on an acorn, there is some press stick there. Sorry, I'm gonna put it now actually. The press stick doesn't want to stick to the shell, but it wants to stick to my fingers. That's gonna be useless if it sticks to my fingers. Maybe that's bad luck. Sometimes you use some glue or sticky substance. It sticks to you, doesn't stick to the part that you wanna put a glue on, or the press stick or pedal tape, whatever you might use. Kind of sticks now. Just putting the acorn back together again to see if it aligns, so it'll still make a good mold. Actually, not the mold itself, but yeah, to obtain a shape in a mold. Just looking if the shelf, if I put it on acorn, fits it correctly. Okay, I just noticed the press doesn't work, so I think, hey, I have Loctite. Let me try and use this. This specific one, I think it's not the correct one, since it, as you can see on the bottle, it says removable. What's the use of that? You'll see as I get some of it on my fingers. The Loctite doesn't, it's not very sticky as I thought it would be. You can see it's so thin, it's almost like water. I actually bought the Loctite about 2 years ago. Yeah, about 2 years ago, for a little project that I had. And guess what? It didn't work for that either. So yeah, here is where I lost track of. I zoomed in too much with the camera, and I, fiddling on the side, unfortunately can't see really anything except the play that I work on my hand movements here and there. I was busy trying to work with the Loctite and trying to get off the pre-stick from the acorn shell that I have put on. And to be honest, this is my first cast attempt of making a complete object, not just half of an object, but actually complete acorn, and a complete oval shaped acorn. Or can I say 3D shape, 3D object. Okay, there's the acorn that you can see the wet stain of the supposed to be Loctite. I just skip the frame. There is the cornstarch that I use as the buying powder, being soaked in some sand. The green sand, as you can see, this is actually from my previous attempt before I actually started recording. I already put the acorn in the sand, and that was also before the acorn was cut, so I think it's not gonna work. You're gonna have to split the acorn in half, which I then did, and that's what you saw on the beginning of the video, me splitting the acorn. The sand, this mold that I made of the sand was the second time this week that I used the sand, and the sand is still, you can still feel this moisture in the sand, but it's not. The sand is still workable, if I can say it like that. You can still use the sand. The sand is still sticky enough to make the mold, to get the shape you want. Just remember, when you're done with your cast and you removed your cast object from the sand, put your sand in your container that you store it in, and remember to put a lid on. If you don't put a lid on, next day your sand is probably going to be bone dry, and then you have to add some water again. Like I'm just here trying to, I can actually feel the acorn with my one hand, so I'm trying to press down on the acorn, not to move it, and then start to ram the sand on the sides. As you can see, I tried to first on the sides. Of course, your sand, as you ram it, it presses out. It moves to the sides basically as you compress it. I've shown you with the finger more or less where the acorn is at, and just for an idea as well, more or less how the acorn is laying there. You will notice this, the wooden flask, the frame, isn't completely straight, and you will also notice when I put on the cope, which is your top frame, it's not aligned. It's not the same size exactly as, not at all the same size as the bottom frame. Just ramming it some more. I use the tools that we have at the moment to cut the wood for the frames, and well, you just can't cut completely perfectly straight, sorry, with a jigsaw. You just can't. It seems to be impossible for me though. Even try to use a guide for the jigsaw, metal guide, that you put the little foot pedal thingy of the jigsaw against. You still don't cut exactly straight. Unless it's also due to the blade that I use that's a bit old. Nevertheless, I am going to visit a friend of mine who has a miter saw that is perfectly to cut the wood perfectly straight. The hammerhead that you see on the left hand of the screen I use for the last parts of the sand ramming. This bucket, I have some extra green sand that I made it. And I'm just pressing it to see if the clay, if I used enough bentonite clay, squeezing it. The sand is also a bit very damp with the very too much moisture almost. But you'll see as I ram it now, I will point out to you a small crack appearing, which, like there, shows me that I don't have enough bentonite clay in the sand mixture. So I will add some more. You will see as you work with the sand, if you don't have enough bentonite clay, your sand breaks a lot easier than with the bentonite clay. Also, you will see here when I scrape the sand off, if you're going to look on your computer, you will of course have the images bigger, and you will see why I made a hand gesture of a no-no of the sand. It also made like a crack in the sand when I took the excess sand off of the aluminium and the crack is the sand that broke off slightly on the surface was due to not having enough bentonite clay. I did by this time already add some clay in the sand and mixed it again. Here I'm just cleaning, removing some excess sand and putting it back in a container. Try not to waste sand unnecessary. I still have a huge bag of sand which you won't see on the camera, but I don't want to make a new batch of green sand every once in a while, so yeah, try to work sparingly. Here the acorn, you can see kind of stuck to the metal, probably with the Loctite that was on it. And the white that you see, also some of the sand that actually broke off just next to the acorn. I'm suspecting I didn't ram the sand hard enough. That's why probably break off. My first thought was maybe the cornstarch powder caused that to happen, but it's not supposed to. If I cannot give a tip, rather use baby powder or talcum powder as they call it than cornstarch. Baby powder is just a lot finer than cornstarch, and so it works better. It just works better. It's very finer than a cornstarch, the baby powder, but cornstarch also works. Just using the brush to try and remove some excess sand. Not sure if I actually need to brush here really. I mean, I already have the hole for the bottom part of the acorn. Okay, putting out the top acorn in. And still the Loctite hasn't even really started to dry. Here you can see the top frame doesn't align at all. It is smaller and it's definitely the wood used is not straight. But that's what you get if you take wood from a recycle bin. Unfortunately, with some projects, you need to have the correct equipment to make your flasks, to make sure your cast comes out correct. It's like using a dull knife and expecting it to cut, but you're not going to be able to cut with a knife if it's dull. You need to have a sharp blade. Just sifting some sand again. You must sift your sand to capture the detail from your object that you want to cast with. A few days earlier that I used the sand to try and make a casted replica from my son's, one of his toy trains. I made a mistake with the train, but however when I removed the train from the sand, I could see very small detail that I captured in the sand, which is fantastic. It shows me the benefit of sifting your sand. Here I'm using 2 knives to poke into the top part of the acorn to remove it. Try to be gentle when you remove your part from the sand, as you don't want to destroy your mold. And it's all in preparation. The better you prepare, the better your end result is gonna be. And that's the one reason you will see later on that my cast didn't come out successfully. It came bloody close, but it didn't come out successfully due to the frames not being the same size. And if your frames are not the same size, you can't align them. And you also see I don't have any slots or guides on the sides of the frames, which also wouldn't work anyway with this frames that I have, since they're not the same size. Just getting a few stuff out of the way there on the side. Getting some excess sand into a container. And yeah, getting the mold, and I actually wanted to try and use a sprue. I have a small cap from old silicone container, which is tapered like a sprue, and I completely forgot about it. So here I thought of making holes to cut the gate and the runners with. If you haven't checked them out, you can check out Old Foundry Man. You can check out his guy's videos, excellent advice that he gives, as well as his Dweeb. You can also take a look at his channel, excellent advice. I think, as I understand, his Dweeb got some of his tips from Old Foundry Man, or most of them, but nevertheless they share valuable information regarding castings and what to do, what not to do. Here I'm cutting a gate and a runner, trying to make it a bit bigger. And you'll see I have another hole to the right hand side of the mold. I wasn't sure, to be honest, if I must cut another gate and runner to the other hole that you see. So I think, okay, maybe not necessary. I was gonna have to make 2 holes to pour on top. So I think, okay, let me just make this gate and runner wider, so I don't restrict the flow of the metal that much. And also the reason, if the gate, the runner and the gate is bigger, the metal can reach its destination quicker before it starts to freeze. As I am using zinc again, and the temperatures that I use with the gas equipment is just enough to melt the zinc, and so it becomes fluid and you can pour it, but it's not hot enough that it's gonna stay fluid for long when you remove it from the heat source. Just poking the hole through with the screwdriver, giving some twisting action, trying not to take out too much sand. I even had my drag and cope. I marked them with permanent marker, but I had everything upside down. Getting a small teaspoon and trying to making a small funnel for to pour a metal in. And when I was doing this, I remembered I forgot to try to make a sprue and then create a pouring basin. But this should work also. Remove my sand again. As I block my hole, I take a screwdriver to open up again. You'll see the sand is almost completely white of the talcum powder. The reason for having so much, well, having the sand covered with the talcum powder is that once you remove your top half of the sand mold, the top half of the sand doesn't stick to the lower half. Here I'm just using my finger to press the sand, any loose pieces of sand, to just press them down, and taking a knife, trying to make the hole a bit bigger. Sorry, as I don't want to restrict the metal flow. Like I said, I am using zinc, and the heat source that I melt the zinc on is just hard enough for the zinc to melt and for you to be able to pour the zinc. But when removing the zinc from the heat source, you have to pour very quick. You won't see in the video, but my my gas setup is actually just the left of the stool that I'm working from. Just getting the gas. Getting the gas ready, and the zinc should be melted by now. And just getting the bath and dry. Just trying to remove any dross from the zinc.